Hey gang, welcome to another bonus episode. I'm going to start us off by talking about wheat, and more wheat processing in the ancient world. And
fun.
I really wanted to go down this rabbit hole because I love anything that helps me prepare for the apocalypse.
Right, this
Honestly.
is, I suppose, a useful skill there.
Make,
Yes,
butter
is-
or is it butter or just cheese?
I can make butter, cheese, yogurt. I can make dairy
Cool.
products, provided there's dairy
not helpful for
around.
me, but
Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah.
But in the
Well, in the
apocalypse, I think,
You'd probably have to weigh up some of your choices as far as veganism or not veganism.
luckily we're not there right now.
We're not there
No,
yet,
yeah.
but you may have to think about that someday.
Let's hope not, but here we
Okay.
are. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so lots of discussions of the threshing floor, as it were.
comes up a lot,
Discussions
yeah.
of separating the wheat from the chaff. Wheat was very important to the Israelites at this time. Wheat was very important in the world in general at this time. Domesticating wheat and domesticating grains in general has been associated with the rise of civilization, that once you figure out how to reproduce growing a grain and then storing it and then eating it and then processing it into other foods like flour and bread and all those things, that's a pretty important turning point as far as the technological advancement of the culture. So here's what you do with wheat. This is a very, very, very simplified rundown.
Paint us a fun picture, though. I mean, okay, so we're Israelites.
Okay.
We're hanging out. We're going to go
You have this
thresh some
wonderful rolling wheat fields.
Oh, beautiful.
are-
Beautiful. Lovely.
Burgeoning.
Inside our
and
gates.
golden.
Inside our
Yeah.
gates these days, yeah.
Yeah, blessed by Yahweh.
Of course.
Full to the bursting. You're going to take your sickle. Now, y'all know what a sickle is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your sickle.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Grim Reaper thing. Yep.
The Grim Reaper
Yeah, exactly.
thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
Either you might have a tiny, like a miniature Grim Reaper one, or a big old actual full-size Grim Reaper one.
Okay, cool.
And you're going to take that and you're just going to kind of cut down these stalks of wheat.
Okay, so now they're
Fun.
lying on the ground.
Now they're lying on the
Neat.
ground. You're
Cool.
going to bundle them up into some bundles.
Are those bales, or is that a different thing?
Those are not bales.
Okay.
They are
I was being silly. Do they have a real name?
as sheaves of wheat. Now, we have encountered sheaves before, because if you remember Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, he had a dream. Do you remember Joseph's dream?
Yeah, you all had
No.
7 sheaves of corn that were stupid and fell on the ground, and mine was good and grew up tall, and now I'm better than you. That was the song, right?
Exactly. Well done.
Definitely perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Nailed it. Yeah, so sheaves of wheat. So they get all bundled up in the field.
Okay.
And left there. And then you got to transport them to the threshing floor.
You're all making this sound very epic. Like an action movie. And then you go to the threshing floor.
So the threshing floor would probably be an area that's close by
Okay.
to the village.
Yeah.
And just a flat area, usually circular, where the earth has been tamped down to a certain regard and is very flat.
Okay, so flat
you'd-
packed dirt, kind of.
Flat packed dirt.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
you would tie your threshes of wheat to your camel or to your donkey or to your ox or whatever and transport it over to the threshing floor.
Okay.
Then once it's there, you dump it all on the threshing floor. Now you have your cow walk on it.
What?
Oh.
Does it have to be cows?
Oh.
Could your horses walk on it?
Or donkeys or camels or anything.
So the whole point of threshing is you're trying to separate the wheat seed from the little packet thingy that it comes in, the protective coating.
Okay, like the
it's
single serving
in.
plastic wrap around
Yes,
it.
the single serving plastic wrap that it grows at the head of the wheat stalk. You're trying to separate it out so that you can get the grain that's inside. And so there's many different ways that many different civilizations came up with for doing the threshing process, a variety of technologies or people just stamping on it. But a lot of people found the most convenient way is just have your cow walk all over it.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
Smart.
the action
Smart.
of the hooves separates out
Right.
the grain from the wheat. There's stuff in the Bible about how you really, really, really should not muzzle your cow while threshing.
Muzzle
I
him
don't,
like
we haven't run into this yet, but apparently
Just
that comes
the-
up later.
Just that I don't know. I guess the idea being that it's okay for your cow to nibble some of this grain if they want to, I guess.
So not to put a bridle around
don't muzzle
restricts him from
Yes.
From
Yeah.
munching, from munching on
From
a little
munching.
bit.
It's
Yeah.
okay if he munches. Yeah. I mean, you're already dealing with this cow that's probably been walking around in its own shit for weeks, stepping all over your grain.
And then might poop on the grain while it's there,
and it's probably going to poop on the grain also.
But you know what? It's not unclean. Eat it. Go to town.
So it gets all threshed, and then that's when you use some kind of technology to separate the wheat grains from the chaff, because you kind of got to find a way to blow out all of the remaining stuff. So either you might use like a fan, like you kind of fan it, or brush it all away.
Which part blows away? The seeds stay? And
no, the seeds are heavy.
The seeds stay.
The seeds stay. And then the rest of the BS just floats away. The stuff that you're not interested in.
Perfect.
Cool.
You might still save the stalks for weaving things, like weaving some baskets.
Like baskets? Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Did that in day camp.
You might just go out and do a process known as winnowing, which is you just pick them out by hand also. So,
that's what winnowing is.
Yeah, that's what winnowing is.
So like the expression
Never heard that word in my life.
Let's winnow this down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
I thought that... Let's...
Winona Ryder.
You're thinking of minnows.
No, I'm not. I'm not thinking of minnows. That's a fish.
Winnow the Pooh, who's a bear.
No, I'm not thinking Winnie. I'm not thinking of Poo Poo. I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm thinking of whittle. That's
You're
it.
thinking of whittling.
Okay.
No, you don't whittle it. You
Like
winnow
to whittle it down. But
Right.
winnow, I haven't heard. Winnow it down.
Yeah, so that's just like to pick them out, and you might be
Okay.
aided by blowing away finding a way to blow away the lighter materials.
Okay.
So that you're left with the seeds. Then you're left with this grain, and then you can chew it, you can make it into a porridge, you can grind it up and make it into flour, and then make it into all kinds of tasty stuff, and there you go.
Unleavened, preferably.
Well, exactly. I was about to talk about that unleavened.
Yeah?
Yeah. The bread of affliction, which is
right.
unleavened bread. Yeah.
I like how your two kind of lead into each other. That's good.
Exactly.
Now that we got this flour.
That's why I was like, Jace, no, I'm next. It's time for unleavened bread time. So, Passover, which is the Jewish festival of freedom.
Right.
I didn't know this. I didn't.
Because that was when they became free.
From Pharaoh,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So, okay. So, essentially, this bread is the bread of affliction our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. So you say this on Passover. I guess people nowadays do this. Yeah.
Right.
So you relive the story of our people sitting together at home as an extended family, as if we were back in Egypt of the pharaohs on the night before we are about to go free after long exile and harsh enslavement. Look at that. Wow. So yeah, essentially like it's this bread and it's, not very good, but it's all that they had. So
you make it again to like remember that and to
remember
celebrate
the times
that.
when we only had crappy bread to eat.
Right.
No, exactly. Yeah, essentially. So it says the evening. So the evening like spent eating this bread and then retelling stories, and kind of like it's dedicated to answering questions about why this night is different from all other nights.
Right.
So you retell the story of Exodus together with acts of eating and drinking that include the bitter herbs of suffering and the wine of freedom. Ooh. It is
Jake always made the joke that Passover is the only holiday with a 4-drink minimum.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's a history made memory by reenactment. So that's cool. So, yeah, there are 2 explanations of the unleavened bread. At the beginning of the story, we call it the bread of affliction, but then later on in the evening, though, we speak of it as the bread of freedom they ate as they were leaving Egypt in such a hurry that they could not wait for the dough to rise. So that's interesting.
Well, that's how we were originally introduced to it, was because they had to leave without leavening it, and that's when Yahweh was like, I like this symbolism. Let's keep eating that at special times. But that's interesting, though, that it showed up in this translation, which makes me, it like felt, yes, it was talking about eating it at Passover, But I wonder if it's one of those things where like they use these two different words to refer to unleavened bread in that situation, and that whoever this translator was like, oh, I know that this word is now called this thing sometimes, so I'll throw that in there. Maybe. I don't know. Now I'm trying to psychoanalyze the translators of this.
Yeah, I don't know. But it seems to be like both this thing that kind of symbolizes their suffering and their freedom, which is kind of fun. It's like both at once.
Wow. Yeah. That's
and
cool.
then people still eat it. Yeah. It's not bad. You know, people poo-poo matzah, but it's good.
I actually like matzah. I know it's weird. Yeah.
It's good. No, it's good. I like it too.
So I have one somewhat boring but related thing, and then one more interesting but not so related thing to tell you.
Great.
Okay.
The related but not as interesting thing is I looked up, we said we would look up the baldness between their eyes thing. Apparently this is a Canaanite mourning ritual in which in mourning people would mar their physical appearance by things like self-cutting or anti-cosmetic shaving is what this person online called it. But basically like shaving part of your forehead to like, I guess, make yourself look prematurely balding or something. I don't know what. But basically like screw up your hairstyle, right? Like just
so it's like when people go through a big breakup and they go in to cut off all their hair.
Right. I think it's like that.
Yeah.
And basically that Yahweh is not anti-shaving heads in general, because as we remember from when Emily took her Nazarite vow that she had to shave her head for that she's shaking her head. No. Right, we would shave our heads in taking the Nazarite vow and then also when leaving the Nazarite vow or something like that, like when finishing it. So Yahweh is not against shaving in general, but specifically not for mourning. Like not doing what the Canaanites do is probably what it's about. But anyway, so that was the not super interesting but related thing. Then Emily was asking a lot of questions about awls, and it reminded me...
Well, it looks like owl.
AWL, awls.
Owl.
And it reminded me of a story that fascinated me as a youth that I wanted to share with you, and that's the story of Louis Braille, or Louis Braille, depending how you pronounce his name, the inventor of the Braille alphabet.
Oh, yes, I was going to ask.
Yeah. So the funny... Not funny, terrible, I don't know, whatever. So Braille was not born blind. He was a kid and was working in his dad's leatherworking shop with an awl and was trying to punch it through some leather and was like looking at it real close and it like bounced back and hit him in the eye. And
that's just one eye.
Oh no.
They rushed him to the hospital, who like sealed it up, and then they took him to a surgeon the next day, but they couldn't save his eye. And then it got infected, which spread to the other eye, and he eventually lost vision in both of his eyes because of this incident as a child.
Jeez.
Terrible. What's interesting, though, is that his parents did actually try to give him a good upbringing, which was not super common at the time, to like give a normal life to a blind kid.
When was this?
This was in the early 1800s.
Okay.
Early to mid 1800s. And anyway, so then they ended up sending him to a school for the blind, which had developed a writing system that involved pages with raised letters that you could put your fingers on and feel them. And it was super impractical. It was really expensive to make them. When this school started, it had 3 books because these books have to be so huge and are like inlaid with copper wire to make the letters and the pages. And it was this very, inefficient system, but was very, loved by people who could see, because they're like, oh yeah, it looks like our writing and now our blind kids can read it. It's great. But some other people were like, no, there needs to be a better way. And so there was a system used in the French military that was a system of coding letters with a series of raised dots on a page, like the thick paper with these dots, like Braille, that was used for secret codes in the military. So you didn't need a light or to talk to be able to pass messages. But it was really complicated. It had like a ton of dots for each letter, and it was just too complicated for people to learn. But when little Braille, as a kid, learned about it, he was like, this is the idea. I'm going to make this better. And so he came up with the Braille system that only uses 6 dots as opposed to 12 dots to make up different combinations of those dots, make up all the numbers and letters. And that he developed this system when he was 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So he developed this writing system, and he developed a tool for making the Braille letters, and it was using an awl. So ironically, the tool that blinded him was the thing he used to create the alpha.
So he came back full circle. That's why we were talking about this, is because of the awl thing?
Because the awl, yeah. I remembered
goodness.
learning about this story in like elementary school because I read.
Wait, and you didn't even look that up. You just like rattled that off from your memory?
I looked it up to make sure I remembered correctly that was the way that went. I didn't remember about this other writing system that he learned first. But then the tragic thing is he created this system when he was 15, and the school didn't adopt it until many years later because they were very resistant to new things. But it's still used today, and had a huge impact on blind people. But the fact that the awl was the thing that blinded him, and also the thing he used to make these, which he then developed into a machine to make it easier to do it in a more orderly way.
He made the awl his bitch.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, triumph from suffering. And I think that's relevant to our story, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Winnowing, threshing, bread, unleavened, Passover, awls, Louis Braille, triumph over suffering.
Yeah. No problem.
Love it. Would love to hear your thoughts. Post any of your opinions about the ancient world's wheat processing process. You can let us know. You can reach out to us via email. You can post in our new fan group, the Drunk Bible Study Fans and Fellowship group on Facebook, or tweet at us, all of the many different places that you can
tweet.
Bother us with your opinions, I suppose.
Wow. Right. You can, bother.
Do things.
Oh, bother.
We will see you next week.